And what we know we need is a lot of planning. We need a plan for trouble. It has to be there well in advance. So in our experience, the best way to do that is write it down and talk about it. And so we have decision-making protocols for use in crisis, under stress. We write it down, we talk about it. It exists in outline form and in much more detailed written form so that everybody knows what's going on. And on top of that, a series of written protocols for communication under stress, because when things get tough, that's when communication falls apart. And yet without it, everything will fall apart. So we look back and we say, well, how'd we do? What happened? How did all this planning, all this effort at preparedness really work out? And let me just address that briefly through two stories. What you see here is the medical tent near the finish line at the Boston Marathon. Normally, it's there for the problems of runners. There are 300 cots in the medical tents, and normally what the physicians and other medical people treat are runner injuries, sprained ankles, twisted knees, hypothermia, dehydration, maybe a heart issue. But on that day, in 2013, when the bombs went off, those people, those engaged, prepared people, in an instant turned that into a major trauma center, such that of all those people who were so horribly injured out there, for those people, they were all into that tent quickly, triaged, identified as to a hospital where they would go, and put in those ambulances. And everybody who was seriously injured on that street and that sidewalk on that day was in an ambulance and on the way to the hospital in 22 minutes. And every person who went into that tent alive is still alive today because of that kind of creativity, ingenuity, and ability to make changes. But it exists at all levels, great and small, not just these profound matters, but in other things. This is a picture taken at this year's marathon, and as anyone who ran, such as Megan, will know, it was a really cold day, and wet and windy and awful, and everybody was freezing. And yet here are these volunteers in the orange and the runners in those hooded capes going the other way who need help, and those volunteers stayed out there hour after hour after hour, all dressed, all prepared to do it, out there to give people those bananas and other things. But we also saw the kind of imagination and ingenuity that Patton was talking about that we all need from those same people, because when the runners came in and said, I'm too cold to peel the bananas, they came up with a different approach. Found another way to do it. Peel the bananas for them. You can't train somebody for that. You can't make a plan for everything, but you can have a level of preparedness engendered among these people if you've done your job, if we do our job as leaders, so that those things happen. Whether you're dealing with bananas or you're dealing with something as horrible as what happened on April 13th.